Welcome students, welcome to this presentation on balance of payments. Balance of payment essentially deals with the monetary aspects of international economics. It is a summary statement of all the economic transactions that take place between the residents of the reporting country and the other country. Now, this happens during a specified period of time. It is essentially a statistical statement where data is collected and summarized and presented. It is with the rest of the world. How does this country stand in terms of financial position with the rest of the world? That is what we can understand by looking at the balance of payment statement. The receipts and payment. This balance of payment account has got two sides, the left and the right. On the left side, we have the credit, and on the right side, we have the debit. The left side shows how a country will acquire foreign exchange, and that shows a positive sign. The right side shows how a country will spend its foreign exchange, and it has got a negative sign. Credit transactions involve the receipt of payments from other countries. That means if India has exported some goods to the other countries, then what is the payment due to India is called the credit item. Whereas when India has imported goods from other countries, we have to make payment to them, and that is called a debit item. Now, there are two ways in which a country can acquire foreign exchange. One is it can it can sell commodities to the world market and therefore acquire foreign exchange. The other way of acquiring foreign exchange is by importing capital from other countries. So the export and import is on one side, and importing of capital is on the other. Now let's look at the account of a country in terms of balance of payment. You can see there are two sides of this slide. One is the credit and the other is the debit. Now, when we are talking about the first item, that is export of goods, we mean the export of goods at the borders of the country, at the exit point of the country, which is visible items of trade. So when we are exporting goods, the goods can be counted and measured at the exit points of the country. And the other side of it, on item number 5, we have the import of goods. Similarly, when goods come into the country, also we are recording them at the exit points of the country. These items are called as visible items of trade. The second item we have here is the export of services: insurance, banking, tourism, education. These are the kind of services that are exchanged between countries. So when we are providing these services to foreigners, we get a payment for them. That becomes a credit to the country. Similarly, when we are seeking these imports from others, we have to make payment to them. A person going abroad for tourism purposes, then we have to make payment to that country to be a part of that country. So these items, the export and import of services, are called the invisible items of trade. We are not able to see these items, and therefore we categorize them as invisible items of trade. Now, there is another third item called the unrequited receipts. These unrequited receipts means the receipts what we get from this, or the payment that we have to make, is once done. That means we don't have to make any payment for these receipts at any point of time. Example, the easiest example is remittances from abroad by the labor that is engaged elsewhere. So when people are working in other countries and they send money to their families back home, then there is a remittance that is coming into the country. So that is called a unrequited receipt. So we receive those kind of things. We also may receive some gifts from other governments of the world. In that case also we call it as a receipt. We don't have to return that at any point of time. Similarly, there is an unrequited payments also. We also might make payments to other countries in terms of gifts that we may make to some other countries during some crisis or some development matters. India might be making some, India makes payment to other countries in terms of these kind of payments. These are called as unrequited um, uh, um, remittances. Now, so 3 and 7 are unrequited remittances. Now, let's look at the item number 4 and item number 8. This item number 4 and 8 are different from items 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, and 7. In the case of item number 4, what we find, it is known as capital receipts. So, what are capital receipts? These are borrowings from, these are capital repayments by foreigners. These are sale of assets to foreigners. So, in any of these cases, what is happening is we are getting a receipt for the activities that we are doing in for a long term. So, these are capital accounts. So, we have two kinds of account. So, this capital receipts are meant for long term. So we borrow from so we are borrowing from some other country, we are getting capital repayments by somebody else, we are selling our assets to somebody else. In all of this we are getting receipts, the credits from other countries. Similarly, we also make payments to other countries. Capital payments include lending to other countries, it's a debit for us. We might make capital repayment to other countries, that's again a debit for us. We can make the purchase of assets from foreigners. So when we do any of these items, we are actually paying foreign currencies outside. In the earlier case, we are getting foreign currencies into the country. Now, item number row 1 and 5 are exports, which are visible items. So we have 500. So 500 is any monetary unit that we can take. So it is 500 units of 500 units of export, and the import is 800. So import is 800 and export is 500. This indicates the visible items of trade. Then we come to the invisible items of trade, the row 2 and 6. Row 2 shows us it enumerates the receipts of the country from the sale of services, which is 150. And row 6 covers the payment which the residents of the country in question makes to foreigners. So when we are making some payment to foreigners, it becomes the invisible payment. Let's look at this now. You can see here the export of goods is 550, the import of goods is 800, the export of services is 150, and import of services of shipping and others is 50. Then the third item is the unrequited receipts. So unrequited receipts, row 3 and row 7. So row 3 and row 7. Row 3 is unrequited receipts of 100, and that is a credit to the country, and 80 monetary units we are showing as a debit from the country, where we are making payment to another country. So we make a balance of current account. Now, what is a balance of current account? It is a summation of the item 1, 2, and 3, and its analogous 5, 6, and 7. So we have visible trade, invisible trade, and unrequited payments and receipts. So these three set of items together form what is called as the current account of the country. So this is a flow dimension. It shows for a period of time what is being purchased and what is being sold, and the value of export per time is usually given as calendar year, but each country can have different periods during which these accounts are maintained. Now let's look at the capital account. I just told you that the first one is called as balance of payment in the current account. Now we look at the balance of payment in the capital account. So capital account is different from the current account in the sense that it brings about changes in the stock position of the country. It is not a flow statement, it is a stock statement. It is the magnitude of the stock will change when there is a change in the current account statement. So item 4 and 8 I showed you, they are different. The 4 and 8 are different. Item 4 is capital receipts, borrowing from capital payments, buys the country, or sale of assets to the other countries. That is the credits. And the debit is when we are making capital payments. We are lending to some other country, we are giving capital repayments to, we have borrowed and we are making the repayments to some other country, or we are purchasing purchase of assets from foreigners, what we are doing. All these can show as items as yeah. So so these items can show itself in the capital account. So article 4 and 8 are different. 4, if it sells part of its assets abroad, inflow of currency. If residents purchase, acquire foreign assets or land abroad, then it is an outflow of currency. So if a businessman in India wants to buy some asset abroad, then it is an outflow of currency. If a foreigner wants to buy asset in India, that is an inflow of currency. So these inflows and outflows will change the way the country gets foreign exchange. Not only that has to be paid in the immediate time, but these borrowings and lendings can go over for a long time, and this also changes the asset ownership of the country. So now ultimately we get the four items: the export visible item, the invisible item, unrequited payments, and the capital accounts. So this is on the credit side, and the same thing is represented on the debit side. So when a balance of payment is prepared, there are three balances that are understood. So one is the balance of trade, row 1 and 5, balance of services, row 2 and 6, balance of unrequited rows 3 and 7, and finally all these three items together we call it as current account. So 1, 2 and 3 are called current account, and the fourth one, which is standalone, the capital part, which is known as the capital account. So we have now got two accounts: capital account and current account. Current account is 1, 2 and 3, visible, invisible and unrequited payments, and capital account is borrowing and lending that takes place over a time, and that is why it is called as items that are included, which is the statistical discrepancy or errors and omission. Now, this is a huge data that is collected for a country about all the items that are being imported and all the items that is exported, the remittances inwards and outwards, and the borrowings and lending. There's a huge amount of data that is collected and compiled. Now, there is every possibility that data is not collected correctly, and it is possible there could be omissions and there could be errors. So, the balance of payment makes an account of these kind of omissions and errors that will be added up later. And there is also a fourth element which is called the official reserve account. This official reserve account talks about the gold or the foreign exchange or the other rights that the government central monetary authority may own. So these items are known as official reserve account. So items A, B. A was current account, B was capital account, C is errors and omissions, and 4 is the reserve, official reserve of the country. All these four items together is what is called the balance of payment account. Now, essentially, we say that there must be an overall balance in these four items. But now in reality we can see those numbers that we had. The first one is the visible items 550, and the import of the goods was 800. So we have a balance of trade deficit here. You can see the balance of trade has got 550 minus 800, which is equal to minus 250. So there is a deficit in the balance of trade account. Then you have balance of services account. The export of services is 150 monetary units and the import of services is 50 monetary units. So we get a surplus of 100 units in the export of services. The third item is unrequited receipts and payments. So this unrequited receipts we have 100 and unrequited payments we have to make only 80. So we get a plus 20, or there is a surplus in the unrequited account of the country. Then the account of all these three items, that is the red items, balance of trade, balance of service and unrequited item, together we get 800 minus 930. So the total credit is 800 and the total debit is 930. So 800 minus 930 is equal to minus 130. So in this particular example, the country is having a deficit in this current account statement. Then let's look into the capital account. The capital account shows that it has got 200 receipts and it has made a capital payment only of 70. So it gets a balance of 130. It's the capital account is a positive account for the country. So the balance of payment, since it's a bookkeeping method we are following, we'll say that the country is export is equal to import. So whatever it is exporting will also have to be it's also a liability for the country because it has to get a receipt for that, and whatever we are making the payment, it is an asset for us because we have got that asset within the country. So that's how the balance of statement will be for the country. Now this is for India, just to show you how the balance of payment actually looks for a country. This is the balance of payment account of India during the period April-June 2020 and April-June 2021. So you can see the items, some names are different, but you can see it very closely that 180 is the credit in the current account, and it was 122 in the current account in 2020. So for each period, they have shown what is the current account and what is a capital account and what was it in 20 and what was it in 21. This is taken from the RBI website and it is released for these two periods. Now the question is there a disequilibrium in the balance of payment? In the bookkeeping entry, we will find that the two are balancing, 1000 and 1000, they are balanced, but in real world, in economic sense, it does not balance. So there is always a possibility, or there is rarely that the balance of payment between the exports and import will balance. It's very rare. It is not likely to happen. We are likely to get a surplus or a deficit in the balance of payment. Now the question is, how do we know that the country is having a disequilibrium in the balance of payment? Essentially, when we use the term disequilibrium, we mean there is a deficit in the balance of payment. So how do we know that? One of the ways to know that the balance of payment is in disequilibrium when we find the movement of foreign exchange reserves, so including gold. So if gold or foreign exchange moves out of the country, we will know that the country is experiencing a deficit in its balance of. Second thing is increasing borrowing from abroad. When we borrow more from abroad, it means that we are importing more than what we are exporting. So that is another way to know that we are having a deficit in the balance of payment. The third thing is the movement of foreign exchange rates in the country's currency. So if there is a currency's foreign exchange rate is showing a movement and it shows that the rates are falling, then it indicates that the country is having a disequilibrium in the balance of payment. Now, no country would like to have a deficit in the current and capital account of the country because it's the most unwanted macroeconomic goal. So, when a country has a continuous adverse balance of payment, a continuous deficit in the balance of payment, the country is in trouble. So currently right now we are seeing how the economy of Sri Lanka is having a country's a deficit in its balance of payment account. It does not have even resources to pay for the goods that it is purchasing from the international market. India had this problem way back in 1990s, late 80s and early 90s, when we did not have resources to make payments for the purchases that we were making from abroad. So those are conditions no country would like to reach there, and countries are very careful about maintaining the balance of payment, and the countries make policies which will keep their balance of payment in control. So what does a deficit mean to a country? A deficit is not something, small deficits, countries are managing it, but then when repeatedly the country is getting year on year deficit, then it does not do well for the country. It indicates a couple of things. The first thing is that the country gets to know that it is importing more and exporting less. That's one of the things that you can understand. We are importing more and we are exporting less. Then the second thing that we can also see that there is an inflationary pressure at home. So when we have inflationary pressure at home, we are spending more at home, and that spending can happen from goods that are bought from outside. There might be shortages of goods, and therefore we might be buying these goods also from outside. Then the other one is that the country may lose it's indicating that the country is losing competitiveness of its export. That means it is not able to sell as much as it wanted its goods to the external world. So the external world does not find Indian goods competitive. It finds Indian goods costly. It may be for because of tariff, or it must be because of the cost of production. Whatever it is, that they find that the goods that are going out from India are not very competitive. In that case also we can have an adverse balance of payment. It is also a reflection that we are not saving enough inside the economy, and for the investment purposes we are inviting foreign reserves from other countries, foreign exchange from other countries. So it's a reflection that saving is less than investment, and that investment is being financed by capital flows from abroad. Balance of payment account. Why does a country prepare this balance of payment? In a sense, the country needs to know how its external sector is working, because the external sector is very closely connected with the macro internal sector. We remember that when we do national income accounting, we have a C plus I plus G plus X minus M, or the export sector. So the C plus I plus G is also influenced by the export sector, and these in turn influence the export sector. So it is important for a country to know how this country's external sector is functioning, because only after making an assessment through this balance of payment account it is able to take decision regarding the functioning of the external sector. It is necessary for making policy. Now there can be two kinds of policy. There can be an inward looking policy or an outward looking policy. Should the country think of producing goods from within the economy, or should the economy understand that it needs to start exporting more, it should encourage its export and earn foreign exchange from other countries? So these are policies that the countries can make after understanding the balance of payment positions of the country. Then it provides an indication that there is a need to adjust its foreign exchange, foreign balance. For example, in 1991, the balance of payment position very clearly explained to the country that there is a need to make some changes in the external balance to balance the economy. So we had gone in for the LPG, or the liberalization program that we had followed in 1991 when the nation was in a state of crisis. Then it is a timely indicator about the trends in the current account. Is a very if we watch these balance of payments on a regular basis, we can understand what is happening to the actual current account imports and export. And finally, it gives us a lot of information about the countries from which goods are being imported, the countries to which we are exporting, the nature of the goods that we are importing, the nature of goods we are exporting, the countries from where they are, or the goods are originating in the trade, and also it can tell us the directions of the trade that the country is engaged in. All of these are understood by looking at a very detailed analysis of the balance of payment. So balance of payment is actually a summary. It shows how the countries are actually trading with the other country, and what it's like a mirror for the external sector of the country. So thank you, students. Please do subscribe to this channel, and there are more videos coming on international economics. So kindly subscribe to this channel and share it with your friends. Thank you.